Welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist of real estate, George Roberts.
Welcome back, entrepreneurs. We have an amazing episode for you today. I'm lucky to be joined by none other than the one and only Julie Holly, founder of The Conscious Investor. Welcome to the show, Julie.
I am so excited to be here.
Great. Yeah, I found myself standing up on Zoom calls recently.
Right.
Nice thing about backgrounds. Yours is very nice, by the way. Bonners Ferry, Idaho, right?
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Sounds amazing. Yeah. And you did direct us to the song. What is that? The Runaway. What is it?
Runaway Symphony.
Symphony. Yes.
Yes.
It sounds like an amazing place. So 30 miles from the Canadian border and probably not a whole lot to bug you other than electronic intrusions.
Yeah, that's true. And I didn't know. I grew up in California in a suburb. We started our family in Denver, Colorado, and lived there for a while. So to come and live on acreage that's rural, in a rural setting where you don't have a Walmart or Target or anything like that, that's like 45 minutes or an hour and a half away. Like when you move into that setting, I didn't know I had a small town girl in me. And this is kind of an aside really, but it's kind of interesting. I think people should, like, listener, just reflect on this for yourself. Just by nature of moving into the setting, I didn't realize that energetically I was pouring out to my neighbors. I love people so much. So living in a population rich place was actually energetically very depleting for me. And so my business is actually very much thrived with me living out here if you're on YouTube, that's my meadow. It's like living out here gives me this space to where I don't have anybody pulling my energy until I go into town.
All right. Well, hey, it worked for Warren Buffett. He didn't have to go to Wall Street to run Wall Street. So
that's maybe I get to be like the Warren Buffett of Bonners Ferry.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, speaking of branding, I did want to ask you that when you started out, I think it was in 2020, it was the Ask Me How I Know podcast, right? And that was awesome, right? So change is not a criticism of the past. You decided to rebrand as The Conscious Investor, and that sort of took over. I mean, you're still Three Keys. I see you've got your shirt on. I don't know if you want to sit up straight so we can see that on YouTube. There you go, Three Keys Investments. And this Conscious Investor really just sort of took over and became the overarching umbrella over everything you're doing.
You know, that's such a beautiful way to weave this entire conversation together. I mean, it's a very tangible example of everything that I've been describing, right? About how we're breathing and we're pruning and we're redirecting and course correcting, and that allows that growth to take place. So yes, the podcast initially began as Ask Me How I Know, Multifamily Stories of Struggle to Success. It was a very SEO rich title, right? And honestly, it was a beautiful thing. Rod Khleif, I asked him, that's like his catchphrase, Ask Me How I Know. And I asked him permission. I'm like, I want to name my podcast this. I know it's your catchphrase. I don't want to step on your toes. Like, you know, can I borrow this? And, you know, he's been an extremely supportive person in my life. And so anyway, I borrow Ask Me How I Know. But the nature of, we all go through personal growth. The podcast began as my way of, I'm starting a podcast. I'm going down the syndication path now as an active investor. How do I get out there to the world from Bonners Ferry? And so I launched this podcast really ultimately to network and to get to know people. And over the time, now that I've grown, the podcast has grown and now it's shifted. And now I'm there. The podcast is there. It's always had a Monday Mindset episode. Now it's always had Investor Thursdays. But now I'm really focusing on supporting passive investors on that Thursday episode. And so it's shifted in that way. And the Conscious Investor really just comes about, you know, as an overarching umbrella now for everything, because I'm such a believer in personal freedom. And I have an equation that can be written out. Just think financial freedom, put an equal sign with a slash through it, right? So financial freedom does not equal personal freedom. And so the conscious, and that's something I've been passionate about. I have finally found the words for it. And the conscious investor really is the culmination of, hey, personal freedom. Financial freedom is part of personal freedom, but you could be financially free, but relationally bankrupt, or your health could be bankrupt. Like you could be financially free, but you're so stressed out of your mind that, you have congestive heart failure, or you have like all sorts of things, right? So I'll pause there.
Yikes. Well, and that's exactly where I wanted to go. The importance of personal branding. I know I don't need to spell it out for you because I think you've said it best. And what all that really speaks to me is authenticity, right? I mean, you're here telling us, hey, I wasn't always a reader, but I became a reader. You didn't think of yourself as a country girl, but you found yourself loving that country lifestyle, and you grow, and part of growth is leaving something behind. And you do see your life as an integrated whole. You see the importance of being that wife and mother, and having all that free time, taking care of your health, and you really made that your brand. I got to say, that's really cool.
Thank you. It really is, because we all need, it's a fail forward type thing. It's like, we just keep going forward. And so if we don't stop, what is failure? Well, I haven't failed. Like I tried that, didn't work, course correct, shift, pivot, new information. Okay, let's integrate that information. How does that affect, what's the net result? What's the change of that? And so it doesn't mean, and you and I were talking about this earlier, it's like off air, like 3 Keys Investments is thriving and vibrant and wonderful. It's now housed under the conscious investor, because now we're supporting everyone in every capacity possible so that they can really have that free life that they are longing for. And that contribution is so important. Like as humans, we are designed, we are created for companionship, for friendship, for contribution, for, like joy and fun. And there are so many elements that we can become fixated on one element and completely bankrupt and miss out the rest of them. And so that's why, being, I guess, really ultimately, I'm sure I'm actually hearing it for the first time. Maybe I'm like, yeah, I am extremely conscientious about my life. And so the conscious investor does make a whole lot of sense.
Okay, yeah. Unexamined life is not worth living. I imagine
I love
you
that
would agree
quote.
with that quote.
Yes, I love that quote.
All right. How about one last before we move into the 7? You talk about intuition and the importance of that. To me, I think a lot of people have a jaundiced eye towards intuition, don't really understand what it is. I mean, I know when I was in science, we would talk about intuition as like the highest level of learning. It's like, hey, I got the math down. I know how to work the equation, but now I have an intuition for how the system works. So whoever's out there listening, thinking like, intuition, what? I'm technical, forget that. I'm logical, rational. I see it in a way, it's sort of like the highest level of calculation. I mean, the machines still don't do a very good job of this.
I'm with you, actually. What is that? Peter Thiel, in his book, I'm looking at over at 0 to 1, he talks about that. I mean, he's like co-founder of PayPal, and like super, like has done so much expansion in the tech space over, the last several decades, or a few decades, I should say. But I mean, he's like, computers are not going to ever replace people. Like they can't. I love ChatGPT. I love AI. It's fantastic. It's amazing. But it can't replace my voice completely. Like we're never going to be obsolete. So I just have to throw that in there. And that's such a good book. If you haven't read 0 to 1, like read outside your genres, like read outside your normal scope. That's a tech book, but it applies and integrates into all parts of our life in a powerful way. Yeah. So intuition is really underrated, and we use intuition all the time without even knowing it. And so here we are saying like, no, I use logic and reason. Really? Are you? It's really your subconscious mind that is at work, that is guiding and directing you with your logic and your reason. So, raising our level of self-awareness allows us, it actually creates so much more efficiency within us. And when we create a healthy relationship with intuition, we just collapse the timelines of how fast it's going to take to make a decision on things. Like we can look at something and say, I just naturally know that's not for me. great. I didn't have to spend any mental bandwidth and energy and time on really digging into it and assessing it and creating some logical reason as to why I'm not going to do X, Y, or Z. It's like just really trusting that, like, nope, that's not for me. I have people that will present opportunities for me in the real estate space, and they are really great opportunities, but I am very self-aware. And I know, like, no, that's just not the best one for me. Like, I can listen to that. And now I've just saved myself time, energy, and I can stay the course that I want to stay to grow as I want to grow. But intuition is powerful, and we develop a relationship with that by just becoming very self-aware. I like to say, ask yourself simple questions. Start at the next time you go to a restaurant, next time you and your wife are at the, listening to the blues and everything. Like, okay, am I going to order what? I mean, like, maybe it's ordering a different cocktail. Like, just look at the menus, look at the menu for what kind of food it is, and just trust your intuition on little weird things like that. And you develop this relationship, and you'll start to learn to trust it and be like, that's weird. I didn't know myself that well. So pause, ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? Raising our level of self-awareness is powerful.
Okay, so I'm going to coin a phrase. I'm going to call that the mixology of mindset growth. Just order a different cocktail next time you're out.
Okay, since my husband is a craft mixologist at our house, I think you've seen posts. I am totally adopting that.
All right, you can have it. I have no copyright. Oh, you're killing me. This is going to be the first time that heading into the end of the interview, I'm laughing too hard to sound very serious. This is the most challenging part of the interview. The final 7 questions I ask, I call it the 7. Are you up to the challenge, Julie?
I am. And I love it. Sometimes I laugh in coaching calls, and I know some coaches want everybody to be all like sad and like crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we can laugh and grow at the same time. So we can laugh and be serious also.
Good. Oh, this is too good. All right. So now the 7. If you could be known for only one thing, what would it be?
Being the conscious investor.
What is the greatest lesson in leadership that entrepreneurship has taught you?
The power of presence.
What personal characteristic has been most pivotal to your success?
Believing in myself.
All right. And this is where we do get to laugh a little bit. Okay. We are going to take a random question. So this could be ridiculous. It could be silly, or it could be something that makes people cry.
I wish I could reach through the screen and like grab it.
You want to take the card off the top? This one? This one
yes,
right
that
here?
one right there.
Okay,
yes,
here.
That one. Here, grab it.
Which event, past, present, or future, would you like to witness?
Ooh. Oh gosh, there's so many really exciting things that are happening in the world. I'm going to go into the future because so many people are like haters of the future and scared of the future and all of that. And I'm really excited about the future and where the world will be and where my family will be. I would love in the future, I'm really excited about being out on a retreat center that I own and having my family and grandkids there and having artists there who are finishing up their artwork, be it prose or, fine art or abstract art, whatever it is, music, and having investors there, people just growing personally. I really look forward to that moment of like conscious investors being together and supporting each other. Like that's really so exciting to me.
Wow. As a lover of future, I got to ask you one bonus question. Jean-Luc Picard or Captain Kirk?
Well, you're going to hate me now. I'm like, I did watch the Treks, right? But I'm a Star Wars person.
Okay.
But I'm going to say Kirk, Captain Kirk. He's classic.
I had a feeling you say your love of the future, but I sensed classic.
It really is. I mean, like Picard wouldn't even be here if Kirk had not existed. So like anybody who's like, oh, Picard, it's like, yeah, he's great. But actually that really falls in line with the whole conversation of evolution and expansion. So Kirk doesn't mean he wasn't bad. If you are a Picard person, Picard wouldn't be there though without Kirk. That could really we could get deep and philosophical on that. And I'm not even a Trekkie.
All right. Okay. Coming back to the script here, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Name a book that has helped to forge you as a leader or as an entrepreneur, and why. I feel like, gosh, we talked about the whole episode. What is the number one though?
Oh my gosh. I'm looking at the book and we talked about this. Every book shifts who you are. If you're reading and engaging, every book like stacks. So now we come into a Kirk and Picard situation, even with the books. Like, well, if I hadn't read High Performance Habits, then I wouldn't have appreciated something like the 12-week year, or like you can't appreciate one thing without the other. So I would say though, really High Performance Habits was when I started to see myself, by Brendon Burchard. I didn't understand. My whole life came into context. I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody told me I was a high performer. I mean, I graduated college early. I started a career at 22. I knew I was I called myself an overachiever. And then when I read that book, I felt for the first time very, very understood. And I was able to better understand myself. And that started opening up this whole, what we know as a conscious investor now. It's like, oh, okay, this is why I am the way I am. I'm not a problem or faulty or dysfunctional. These are my strengths. Let's use them and let's go serve the world powerfully.
Describe a failure or misstep and what it taught you.
Oh my gosh. Shiny object syndrome cost me a ton of time, and I lost a lot of sleep because I thought I'm going to get multiple streams of passive income. I'm going to have my real estate, and then I'm going to have e-commerce, and I'm going to have crypto, and I'm going to have all these like different things going on. And e-commerce just really taught me a lot of valuable lessons, because I had a Walmart store. I had 6 figures leveraged on a Amex card. And that's normal because it's a business. And so you're buying your inventory, you're selling your inventory, it's getting paid off. It's not an issue until Walmart shuts you down. And Walmart decided that they were shutting down a bunch of stores. Mine, like half of the stores got shut down. My store is one of them. And it created a lot of sleepless nights, because when you have like a $60,000 bill that's due and Walmart's holding your money hostage, it's a little bit stressful. It was a lot stressful. And it was supposed to be a passive investment. I was just supposed to pay and buy the store and everybody else runs it. And so it really kept I was already invested passively in real estate before that. And it's very much grounded me and given me a stronger heartbeat for passive investors that we serve at 3 Keys, because you don't ever want anyone to feel what I felt and to have that level of stress. And so it's created a deep level of awareness. By the way, God provided, everything was always paid on time, and my credit didn't get trashed. So I feel like, whew, barely made it through that one, but that taught me a lot of lessons about investing in what you know. I'm very particular about my partners. Anyone who follows me knows I am. And that probably taught me a lot about partnerships. Like, know your partners.
Wow. Great lessons. And I know you like to have your partners, you like to do deals with somebody for a year before you let outside investors in, correct?
I like to have a relationship with a person for a year.
Okay.
Yes. Before I do a deal with people, I call it layers of insulation for our passive investors. Like, okay, I've known this person. I've been watching them on social platforms. I've probably met them in person at an event, which, by the way, you and I know, if you can go to an event in person and you already have a relationship with someone and you're interested in partnering, now you can watch, like, how do they carry themselves? How do they interact with people? Like, is that reflective? Because our brands reflect upon each other if we're in a partnership. And it's like, okay, well, is that something that I want to be aligned with? Is that the way they carry themselves and the way they treat people? Is that aligned with my brand as well? And am I aligned with their brand? maybe I'm, just a little too happy. I don't know. So, it's really like,
Are you too happy? Get out of here.
I know, get out of here. Be more serious. Come on. but it really it's really important. I also like to collaborate with people on podcasts and create little pieces of content because you see how people show up. And so I take time to understand who I'm partnering with.
Great. And one last, because I remember I've been wondering what is Three Keys Investments? I just want to take a wild guess. Is this like the old 3-lock box? You keep something safe by having to get 3 keys to get in, or is this, am I totally off on this?
Okay, you're totally off. However, I do have, look, one of my friends actually found these, and my daughter gave me this bird for Christmas. So yeah, Three Keys Investments. And if you're listening, go to the YouTube channel. I'm holding up 3 antique looking metal keys that look like they should open a prison cell or a magic box. So, and I'm also holding up a really cute bird that is made of some type of resin. It's heavy. All that to say, so Three Keys Investments, I am my faith is central. I think everyone knows that who follows me. Faith is central in my life. So, you have the Trinity in the Christian faith, right. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. 3 is also, I'm 3rd generation in real estate. And so I'm 1st gen when it comes to commercial and apartment investing, but I'm 3rd gen in real estate. So 3. And just be honest with yourself. If you do something 3 times, if you like it, love it, or need to leave it. And so 3 is a really magical number and my favorite number because, it's like 3 bites of anything, if first bite, that was okay. Second bite, you're like, 3rd bite, you're like either heck yeah or hell no, right? So it's 3 is magical.
Okay, so is this a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken from Ecclesiastes?
We can even go that route.
Okay.
We can even go into Jesus rose for after 3
On
days.
The 3rd day.
I don't know. I mean, this could definitely get over spiritualized.
Okay, all right. So not necessarily from the verse from Ecclesiastes, but there are a lot of 3s in the Bible, a lot of 40s in the Bible.
7s, right. So it has I like the whole concept of 3 keys is you have I my faith is represented, my family heritage is represented, and just that concept of everything we've been talking about, course correct. 3 within 3, you can know where you need to go. You can listen to that intuition. You can course correct. Wow, we've really integrated a lot of this. This is good. And if you're looking on YouTube, I'll describe this for you listener, is that the logo of 3 Keys is a bird sitting atop a bird cage. And the cage is open. And that was something I visualized in my mind from the very get-go is I want people to no longer live these caged lives. So at the genesis of the company, I was all about personal freedom. I didn't have the words to describe it. So I have a picture, be the bird on top of the cage. Stop living in the small cage. Go and live, and don't live oh, look at the blue sky. That's my glass ceiling. Stop living small. There is this whole thing called space and galaxies, go live in the black. So I'm into living in the black now because the galaxy is expansive and there are universes to be discovered, and our lives should never be trapped by our single atmosphere of the planet we're currently living on.
And I thought that your background was black just because it's a slick color. So if we're going to reach out to you, all those future conscious investors in our listening audience, how do they reach Julie Holly?
The best way, I'm going to give you the back door. You can only get there if you are listening on a podcast or watching on YouTube. If you go to julieholly.com, you will just get the most personalized page, and it will tell you'll be able to schedule time with me. You'll be able to see the book club. But it really houses all the brand. Soon, and maybe when this is released, we will have an actual website that is strictly The Conscious Investor. The domain is taken. So if you or listeners or viewers have any suggestions for a domain name for The Conscious Investor, I still haven't figured that one out yet. Kind of holding me up a little bit. So go to julieholly.com and
in the
schedule time. I like to talk to people. I like getting to know people. So don't be afraid.
Well, I've had a lot of favorite interviews in this series, Julie, but I have to say this is probably the most joyful interview that I can remember.
That makes my heart so happy because you know what? Life has all of its ups and downs, but we should have fun swimming in our zone of genius, and we should have fun in everything that we do, even the challenges.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience with our audience, Julie.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And it's great to actually like just be able to see you face to face and talk and everything.
I know. Yeah, we have to just stop meeting at these barbecue restaurants.
I'll tell you off air. Next one. You got like we've got events coming up.